active pilot, recognized as a world expert in aerospace medicine, Dr. Gary William Gray has dedicated his life to the health and fitness of those wishing to fly. Born in 1944 in Palmerston, Ontario, Gary enrolled in the RCAF Medical Officers Training Program in 1965, while attending McGill University's medical school. In 1968, a year prior to earning his degree, he was posted to the military's Institute of Aviation Medicine, CFIAM, which was starting a high-altitude research program in the Yukon on Mount Logan. The opportunity opened the door to Gary pursuing a career with the armed forces that combined research with clinical and aerospace medicine. At CFIAM, Gary pursued a doctorate studying altitude illness, and then joined the Canadian Forces Environmental Medicine Establishment, CFEME, in 1978. As head of the Central Medical Board, he recognized that the military's existing medical standards for aircrew selection and review were outdated. So began a process of reform that aimed to adopt evidence-based decisions. Gary's reforms to the medical certification of aircrew included the development of an aeromedical risk matrix. Through the careful use of this new evidence-based approach to determine medical fitness, Gary was able to provide medical recertification to hundreds of military and civilian pilots. His approach has been widely adopted and taught. Thanks to Gary's work, many more pilots remain flying, including jet pilots needing contact lenses, pilots with diabetes, and those being treated with antidepressants. In 1983, when the National Research Council launched Canada's astronaut program, it requested medical support from the Canadian Forces. The military Surgeon General in turn asked Gary to direct and lead the medical screening of astronaut candidates. He worked closely with NASA Flight Medicine to establish Canada's medical certification process and standards. The process took less than a year, a success that allowed astronaut Marc Garneau to reach space in NASA's Space Shuttle Challenger in 1984.
And the history's largest astronaut crew is on its way.
Gary's decades of support to the Canadian Space Agency, NASA, and other international space organizations has ranged from overseeing the medical screening for Canada's first astronauts to his ongoing leadership role as chair of the ISS Multilateral Space Medicine Board, which provides medical certification for astronauts and visitors traveling to the International Space Station. Gary has also helped develop the important pre-breathe protocol used in spacewalks. Gary took his release from the Canadian Forces in 1985, although he continued to head the CMB and to serve with the Canadian Space Agency. He then rejoined the forces as a medical officer in 1990, ahead of the CSA's decision to select a new group of astronauts. Gary's work in aviation and aerospace medicine followed in the footsteps of Dr. Wilbur Franks, and he has become a similarly influential leader in the field. Gary has over 100 publications on aviation medicine, and, as a teacher and mentor, has taught most of the Canadian Forces flight surgeons who attended the military's School of Aerospace Medicine since 1970. Gary has also taught civil aviation medical examiners, and, for several decades, has been the senior consultant to the Airline Pilots Association and the Air Canada Pilots Association. During his career, Gary has been involved with the development of formal training programs in aerospace medicine through the University of Toronto, and he has pushed for Canada to develop formal expertise in aerospace medicine. Advocacy that led to the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada to recognize the formal discipline of aerospace medicine. Internationally, Gary has directed and lectured at the NATO Lecture Series on Cardiology and Aircrew, and, as a civil aviation medical examiner, he continues to lecture as requested at CAME seminars. Gary's exceptional career has afforded him opportunities rarely available to civilian physicians. He has flown in many Canadian military aircraft and has acted as physician to royalty during Canadian royal tours. For more than 50 years, Dr. Gary Gray's work has been widely valued by his peers. He is a Fellow of the Canadian Society of Aviation Medicine and the Aerospace Medical Association, among others, and he has received several awards, including the Ad Astra Award, the Wilbur Franks Award, and the Theodore Leister Award. His decorations include the Order of Military Merit, a CD with clasp, and the Silver Jubilee Medal. In his private life, Gary is a loving father and grandfather who manages to find time to fly recreationally and to remain active in sports. Hockey is a favorite. He played for the Toronto Islanders for 30 years. A lifelong lover of jazz, he has taken up playing the saxophone. For his ongoing commitment to the advancement of aviation and aerospace medicine, contributions that include research, teaching, and work with the Canadian Forces, the Canadian Space Agency, and international bodies, Dr. Gary Gray was inducted into Canada's Aviation Hall of Fame at ceremonies held in 2023.